Hi everyone. I'm here to talk about attachment and intimate relationships, which is from chapter 7 of Why Therapy Works. So let's get on into it. So I believe that this reading from the reader focuses primarily on attachment, of course, and this is defined as an evolutionary strategy to keep parents and children close. And I found that definition actually really significant. Like, at first I didn't agree because I feel like attachment styles can reflect in our relationships with other people, not just our parents, but due to the fact that, like, for centuries, the relationship, the unconditional love that you feel for a parent or even for your child, in the long run is really what shapes us the most in a way. The author also highlights that the amygdala is an important structure in the limbic system, which is associated with attachment. And this is important because the limbic system is basically how we regulate our emotions. And if we don't do that badly, then it'll affect not only our emotional well-being, but also our physical well-being, because the limbic system can trigger the release of hormones in response to, like, stress. And I feel like stress was a highlighted form of, like, a highlighted result from these attachment styles, I feel like. And then the 4 forms of attachment are secure attachment, avoidant attachment, anxious attachment, disorganized attachment. And to just give a brief summary, secure attachment is when the parents are available and are in tune with the children's needs. Avoidant is when they're not. Anxious attachment is when they're enmeshed or inconsistently available caregivers, and disorganized is the conflictual relationship you have with your mother when you're under stress, which is not a form of attachment that I knew. So that was very interesting to learn. The author also emphasizes the concept of attachment plasticity, and this kind of displays how our intrauterine environment and also maternal behavior after birth can serve as mechanisms that shape ultimate development. And this concept is very important to work on in therapy, just because if there's any dysregulation with either the intrauterine environment or the maternal behavior, it's important to, like, learn how to feel more safe with others, because that's where we kind of feel the most safety is from, like, our mother, because that's the first person we knew, and just, like, maternal instincts that they have and how they treat us, as well as the intrauterine environment, because it's really the first environment that we were exposed to in utero. However, there's also other factors that the author discusses that can shape, like the transition from from an insecure attachment to a secure attachment, based on just, like, observations that this person had. And it's basically how they process stressful events or traumatic events, if they have, like, a healing relationship with a significant other. And also their involvement in psychotherapy is really can be really important in adjusting those attachment levels. And there's also different steps that the author discusses about, and the steps are for the therapist to be the parent they didn't have. And the second step is the emergence of grief and sadness when the client realizes that they do have defensive reactions, because insecure attachment kind of allows for a lot of defensiveness. And that's also when the therapist encourages the client to conduct new experiments in living, which is very hard, in which the client or which the therapist has to guide them through that process to limit their anxiety, and also to prevent them from doing past behaviors that just didn't work out for them, from healing or from their pain and suffering. Okay, that's all the key takeaways that I got. My favorite quote is on page 113, and it's, "The amygdala has evolved to store negative associations on a permanent basis." And the reason why I chose this quote is because I saw, like, an immediate connection to chapter 4, part 2 of discussing atonement and embodying integration, which was our reading from last Wednesday. And a point that I observed from that reading is that God can make sense of suffering, but sometimes that suffering can never be fully understood. And I feel like this gives a clear anatomical aspect of that. Why we can't fully understand like our suffering, because sometimes it just lingers with us permanently because of the amygdala's function. And as an applied health science major, you know I eat that up, like for real. I love anatomy. But like it's just, I think that's really cool though. Do I agree with the author's perspective? Ultimately, yes, I do. However, there was kind of just like a thing that I noticed, although I do agree with like the anatomical aspects of like how the amygdala and our attachment styles can change our limbic system and can affect our physical and emotional well-being through pain and suffering. I feel like the way that the author phrased the first step, which is be the parent they didn't have, I think that is abnormal, and I feel like that shouldn't be normalized. Although they do emphasize being attuned with them, respect their perspective, and being present, I feel like these 3 factors are extremely important because it relates to what we've been discussing about being like empathetic through just being a presence for the client. However, I feel like if you paraphrase that to the client, saying like, I want you to treat me like a parent, it's very different. There's more than just being a parent, than just being an empathetic presence and being present with the client. There's a lot more expectations, and I just feel like that wording is just a little like suspicious. I just don't like it personally. Because yeah, like I said, it's just very complex, and like parents also instruct and they also provide basic needs, and sometimes, I mean, what am I saying? All the time, like therapists can't do that because it's very important to keep that emotional boundary. But I feel like the author was trying to get it from an angle where it's important to have that emotional boundary, like parents have an emotional boundary from their kids because it's like kind of protecting them, but also it's like not the right thing to do to be like Dr. Wu said, like Lorelai and Rory Gilmore, and just being like confiding in each other about their own personal issues, because that's just not the correct function of like a parent and child relationship. But yeah, I think the author should have stated it in a different context. That's my ultimate giveaway or takeaway. Oh my gosh, sorry, can't talk. How does this information relate to your own experiences? This semester I felt like my attachment style was very disorganized. And that's the one where children with disorganized attachment, when under stress, appear to have a conflictual relationship with their mothers. And I love my mom. My mom is my best friend, and she and I are like identical. But when I was deciding on taking a gap year, I thought for the longest time that like or not the longest time, it was like for a week, but still that felt like the longest week of my life. And in a way, the way the author described this, because I thought she wasn't supportive of my gap year, is like they spin, fall down, hit them. I didn't hit myself, but like I was just like kind of like mad at myself and didn't know what to do to calm myself through that. I feel like that was the most stressful week I've had in my semester, and it was like such an odd feeling because I never experienced this before, and I like knew like I wanted to soothe it, but I was like really scared to like approach the situation with my mom, and that was the worst feeling ever because like I said, she's my best friend and me and her are like so similar, and it was so scary. But yeah, and it's just funny because I never heard of this attachment style before, and reading this I was like, this doesn't make any sense, and then I was like, oh wait, I kind of experienced this for a little bit this semester. But yeah, so my question for you guys is, what attachment style do you most resonate with when it comes to your parental relationships? And if it's not a secure attachment, what can you do to strengthen those relationships so it can be a more secure attachment lifestyle? Because like the author discusses in this chapter, a secure attachment relationship is kind of like the core of all nurturing, supportive, and healthy relationships. So yeah, bye guys.